What's up? It's Ryan Van Tile from the PMS Listener Union, the Los Angeles Sports Union, and just myself, Ryan Van Tile, here with an update for your latest, very rare, extremely rare, I believe this is the third one, Commissioner's Report. Now, I do not do podcasts. I'm not interested in becoming a podcaster. Sounds like the most awful thing to ever say to someone, hey, I started a podcast. But I will from time to time make sure that things are set straight on the record. But today I'm coming because I need to set the record straight. There are some characters on the internet in the Los Angeles and Cleveland sports world, we'll explain how Cleveland gets involved in a second, that are disparaging my words on their podcast, and it needs to be addressed on the record. And not only are they disparaging my words, they're having a whole frickin' roundtable about it. They call it the NBA roundtable. They might as well call it the NBA circle jerk, because it's just all them, all these Twitter dorks, these NBA stat nerds talking about how great LeBron James is because of his stats at the end of his career. They're taking things I've said, they're twisting them, they're adding their own spin to them, especially one of them. And they're doing this with a recorded voicemail, not giving me an opportunity to clarify, to fight back, to push back on their opinions. So I needed to set the record straight. The show I'm referring to is called The F&A Show. It's a great show hosted by Adam Oslin and Kevin Figures, who both work at AM 570 in LA, AM 570 LA Sports in Los Angeles. And then the third member is an unbelievable guy I know named Bob. And Bob is the voice guy for Fox Sports, the entire country. He does all the voice work, all the ins and outs from their commercials, from their shows. And he also hosts a podcast that he started called Fear the Fro, which is an NBA-themed podcast about the Cleveland Cavaliers. So needless to say, Bob is a big LeBron stan. So it all started a couple weeks ago. I tweeted out something, which I'm not even going to recap very much because the clips I'm going to play from the F&A show basically cover everything. But I tweeted something regarding LeBron James being at the end of his career, and my opinion is that when NBA stars start to age, the young players realize, hey, this guy's not going to be around for long, and they start to begin to push that leader of the NBA out of the circle. It's happened consecutively. It's happened a lot, and it happens in the most simple way. The young players, the young up-and-coming players, simply decide not to go play with that aging star NBA player. It's the simplest way to push them out of the pack. Hey, I don't think you're going to be around for long, so I'm not going to go and join your squad because I want to create my own thing where I'm at. I want to be the alpha or whatever. Very, very simple idea, which completely got twisted. Even though I typed it out, it was literal words, but somehow these NBA Twitter stat dorks are unable to comprehend the most simple tweets. So they had a podcast. They initially discussed it in their first NBA Circle Jerk. It was completely mischaracterized, the entire argument that I was making. And then I left a message on the F&A show. They have a Talk-S hotline. I left a message to recap that they were wrong, that they were mischaracterizing my words. And so then they had a second podcast with the three of them, a second NBA roundtable circle jerk, where they played my voicemail, they dissected it, made their own opinions, their own accusations, said all these things to which I was not able to respond because they're just listening to a recorded voice message. So now I'm turning the tables on them. I am going to play their podcast of my voicemail, and I'm going to respond on my own platform. This very, very small but very proud Commissioner's Report on the LA Sports Union YouTube page. So let's go ahead and get into it.
It's time for the NBA.
This is the voice of Bob right
on the
here.
F&A podcast.
That is the intro to the NBA Roundtable, or what I'm calling the NBA Roundtable Circle Jerk.
With Bob Schmidt.
He's the voice of AM 570 and Fox Sports Radio, and the voice of reason with many NBA subjects. Bob, thanks for coming back on the FNA podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
So we got some loose ends. We got some unfinished business to attend to, because last time you were on, well, we talked about the debate on Twitter between yourself and Ryan from the PMS.
Now, the person giving this intro is Adam Oslin. Adam is actually a great guy. He works at AM 570 as the pre-half and post-game person for the Los Angeles Clippers radio broadcasts. And he's also a hardcore modern NBA stan. He holds some incredible belief that the NBA was not an actual athletic league filled with athletes prior to the year 2016 or something like that, that the game was a total slugfest. It was disgusting to watch. He hated every second of it growing up, wishing for the day when guys would jack 40-foot jumpers and writhe on the ground every time they were touched and sit out and play 1 out of every 5 games. This is Adam Osland continuing on with his recap.
Union that started off of this one tweet where Ryan retweeted somebody showing Jason Tatum giving LeBron James some grief over the meme that's been out there of him always predicting the future. And Ryan said this, quote, on December 1st, NBA players treat their older legends like a pack of animals treat its aging alpha. They collectively decide they're done with the old head and then shove them out disrespectfully. It was done to Kobe. Now it's happening to LeBron. To which Bob replied,
okay, it's so simple. Once the guys get old, no one wants to go and play with them. LeBron is old. He's got 2, 3, maybe 5 years left, depending on how roided up and HGH'd up he is, however many PEDs he's taking to keep him going so he can play with his son. For some reason, all the testosterone that he takes to stay active has not affected his hairline. He has not been able to regenerate hair on the top of his head, but he is still incredibly athletically productive at this point. But the fact remains that these players are not going to come play for the Lakers. That was my tweet, because they don't want to come and be LeBron's number 3 and AD's, or LeBron and AD's number 3.
on his @FearTheFro Twitter handle.
So this is Bob's reply.
Kobe question mark? The Jazz literally let Kobe take 50 shots without doubling in his final game, like he was the disabled team manager on senior night. The whole season was nothing but a victory lap where people paid tribute. Of course, I like that tweet.
Erroneous. Who cares what the Jazz let Kobe do in his final game of his career in L.A.? It has no bearing on the argument. It's completely irrelevant. That night was a one-off thing that will probably never happen again in NBA history. It had never happened before then. The moment took over. That has nothing to do with the point of me comparing the fact that in his later years, young stars did not want to come play with Kobe Bryant, similar to how they are not going to want to come and play with LeBron.
Bob eventually brought up and then talked about how, it wasn't just that game. The Celtics gave him a piece of the floor. And then Ryan, started to move the goalposts some more. Well, classy pregame gestures by organizations have absolutely zero bearing on the fact that young players in the league saw he was done and wanted nothing to do with him. Come on, Fro.
This is not moving the goalposts. This is very simple. This is now a standard practice for a retiring on their way out Hall of Famer across all sports, is that every organization, when that player comes to play their final game in their final season in the organization's home arena or stadium, they do some sort of gesture for him, whether it's, someone coming to California and getting a surfboard, or Kobe going to Boston getting a piece of the floor. This is PR done by the front office. It has absolutely nothing to do with the players on the court. They're standing there because they're required to, watching this pregame ceremony for this aging star on his way out. It has nothing to do with anything.
So Kevin and I got this voicemail on the Talk Yes hotline.
949-478-1197, by the way.
That's Kevin Figures,
And
other
it's
host
from
of
Ryan.
the FNA podcast.
It's 2.5 minutes long. Now, what I suggest is we just pick it apart piece by piece. So, Bob, we'll parcel through this, and when you want to jump in, I can just pause it right here, and you can rebuttal and rebuff.
Okay.
And
good.
correct.
I like that
because
idea.
Ryan was on Twitter saying we mischaracterized his argument
Damn right.
when we read his actual tweets, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, you can read tweets and then put your own interpretation on. That's called mischaracterizing. It's very simple.
So
But, things can be lost in context sometimes when you're typing as
Thank
opposed
you.
to when you're speaking. Right?
Kevin's one of the few. Kevin's probably the only reasonable person in this entire thing.
here we go. And Bob, when you jump in, I'll pull it down, and we'll just kind of take it, session by session.
They have a lot of balls to take a discussion that I started on Twitter, talk about it on your podcast, completely misrepresent what I said.
We read his actual tweets and just did so again. I'm sorry. I had to jump in there for a second. Ryan, continue.
And then just say, yeah, Ryan's a fucking idiot.
Did we say that?
I don't
Yeah,
think any of us
you
ever
basically
said those
did.
words.
Okay.
I wasn't
Please.
comparing the end of Kobe and LeBron's careers from a stats perspective. Everyone knows what you dorks were talking about.
Well, does the analogy work then?
I also think we kind of made that point on the episode where, like, it started in one place. It just went to another because it began in a place where his original tweet, which you read, basically said that, they eat their own, and later on there's just massive disrespect. And my initial contention was that that's ridiculous to say that Kobe Bryant was disrespected at the end of his career. That was where it started.
So here's where I have to jump in. These guys, it's like three Rain Mans sitting together getting hung up on the word disrespect. The word I said they pushed them out of the pack disrespectfully. This is the most common NBA slang term. Disrespect is used all the time. It's a disrespectful dunk, a disrespectful crossed him up. It's in that sense. It's not like they were out there clowning the guy. It's the NBA term of disrespect, as in, hey man, you can't play with us anymore. But they took it as like these NBA players were just out there in the media slandering Kobe, which did not happen. But apparently they are these dorks because they're so busy staring at spreadsheets of stats, and Adam is so consumed with pushing a narrative that somehow it's okay for Kawhi Leonard to not be playing basketball for 70% of the games that the team that's paying him to play basketball for is playing. They don't even know NBA lingo, apparently. Anyway.
Well,
Then, because I'm a lapdog for LeBron James, I just took it off into a second avenue of, and also, let's not even compare these two players at the end of their career, because one of them deserved to be criticized based on his play, and the other one is still, 27-7-7 every year for 20 years. There's been a fall off, but not an appreciable fall off like you had post Kobe injury.
Again, stat dork. No, that was never done. That was not the comparison. The tweet was not, oh my God, it's unbelievable to me that LeBron is playing like Kobe. That was not the tweet. I never said that. I never conflated their two careers on the court. It was simply the most simple statement of players don't want to come and play with LeBron anymore.
Well,
That was kind of. Now, obviously, we ended on the LeBron thing because, as with anything, I just wouldn't let it go. But the more salient point in that disagreement was that Kobe was not in any way, shape, or form disrespected by other players across the league in his final couple years. Did people not want to play with the Lakers? Sure, but that's because their payroll was a disaster in large part due to Kobe, and he was not a player anywhere near LeBron's level. You could still make the argument now that some people might talk themselves into the idea that if they were a great talent, a superstar player, and they jumped on a team alongside LeBron, that would make them a title contender. That's basically been the Lakers' whole contention for the last couple years. But nobody was under that impression for a broken down shell of himself Kobe at the end. The payroll part of it is just icing on the cake. It also was very difficult to do that because he was commanding such a large portion of the salary cap.
And was telling guys, basically, come with me if you want to win, while I'm nowhere near the same player that I used to be.
The lack of humility, which doesn't surprise us about Kobe, while the Spurs are basically doing this pitch to LaMarcus Aldridge like, hey, man, we want you to join us. It'd be great. It'd be fun. If not, we're good. And then the Lakers are doing all this Hollywood stuff, and Kobe is like, hey, man, I'll teach you how to win. I'm still the guy, but you can come here and help us win. Like, that's what it was.
And that's the disrespectful part, is that they looked at Kobe in the eye, figuratively, maybe not literally, okay? It might be hard for you guys to have an imagination with context and not take things so literally, but they essentially, LaMarcus Aldridge is a perfect example, look Kobe in the eye and says, yeah, I don't want to play with you anymore. You're not good enough. To a legend, to a top 10 player, a top 15 player, if you're a true Kobe stan, which I love Kobe. He's my favorite basketball player that I grew up watching, other than Michael Jordan. I don't think he's a top 5 player. That's a different argument. I've never said that. But to say that to a top 10 player of all time, like, yeah, man, you're at the end. I don't want to come hang out in your pack anymore. That's disrespectful. I guarantee Kobe took that as a sign of disrespect. LaMarcus may not have meant it disrespectfully, but Kobe surely took it that way. That's the point.
I want to hear this part again from Ryan.
I wasn't comparing the end of Kobe and LeBron's careers from a stats perspective. Everyone knows.
Okay, here's the problem with that, though. Like, comparing them at all means in some way you are. Because if you're saying, quote, it was done to Kobe, now it's happening to LeBron, with older legends being pushed aside. Well, if you're making that parallel between them, and there's really no comparison with how they're playing at the end of their careers, with LeBron still playing at such a high level, it just doesn't work.
And even if it's not stats driven, if just the premise is, well, Kobe wasn't as beloved as LeBron is now or something like that, it's like he had an entire retirement victory tour with tributes in all these cities that used.
Again, irrelevant. The retirement tour is standard practice for retiring legends, Hall of Famers. It's done by the front office. It has nothing to do with the players.
Boo them constantly. That's the part that doesn't hold up for me.
Yeah, contextually, I think that's where it falls for me, is that if you're going to put these two people in the same statement, should LeBron be disrespected the way that he is versus is there an understandable reason why people didn't want to play with Kobe? You had guys like Tatum and Kyrie talking about how he was a mentor to them and, working with him in the offseason and all these things. Like, I don't think there was any lack of Kobe respect.
The part that Bob just mentioned about, like, talking about Kobe like he's a mentor and things like that, that was part of Kobe's end of career PR campaign that he went on to try and reshape his image. He wanted to become this godfather of the NBA to these young players. And of course they're going to go learn from a guy who's got every one-on-one move known to man in the offseason. Why wouldn't they go spend an afternoon with him and then get some good PR out of it by saying, yeah, I went and worked with Kobe? It makes them look like they're taking the game serious because everyone knew that no one took the game more seriously than Kobe. That is indisputable, him and Michael Jordan. So of course young Kyrie's going to be like, yeah, Kobe's my mentor, blah, blah, blah. They're using that for their own clout. That doesn't mean they want to come play with the guy. It just means they're like, yeah, I'm going to go learn some stuff from him, and then I'm going to get some good PR out of it.
Premature death, but the fact that people continuously try to pigeonhole him into, top 3, top 4 player debates is, if anything, that's a sign of the inordinate amount of respect the guy has, because statistically speaking, or resume speaking, it's almost an impossible case to make. You have to resort to arguments his immense will and his competitive desire, those intangible things that are just nonsense fan.
Bob is creating an argument here, not against me, but now to make his own point. He's creating an argument against Kobe stans and people that are lionizing Kobe because of the crazy, unfortunate, and horrible circumstances of the way he died. But every NBA greatest all-time players argument before Kobe died, most true NBA people outside of true Kobe stans, true like Kobe lifers, Kobe over everyone, Mamba mentality people, most people had him either at 10 or outside the top 10. So Bob's just arguing with people who have been caught up in the Kobe memory world and are now putting him top 5, top 3. But that's not a rational argument, and that's not the argument that I made.
I wasn't comparing the end of Kobe and LeBron's careers from a stats perspective. Everyone knows what you dorks were talking about. What I was saying was that NBA players, as they age, the young kids automatically push them out of the pack. They don't want to go there. They don't want to play with them. No one wants to play with LeBron because they know they're not going to get any credit.
I would just like to say Anthony Davis wanted to play with LeBron and was fine with not being the Finals MVP, even with the way he played. You could make the argument he was just as good as LeBron James. Oh, and they're going to have salary.
Okay. Adam's one pushback is, AD wanted to come here. Yeah, and who's AD's agent? Oh, he's with LeBron's agency. He's with Clutch Sports. Oh, how about that? Oh, and they guaranteed AD that he wouldn't have to be a big boy and put on his big boy pants and play in the paint. Oh, yeah, okay, great. And he could, because he's such a beta, because he's not a true dominant big man, he's not the one who wants to be the guy. He can hide behind LeBron on his way out. Of course, AD wanted to come here. They probably pushed it on him when he was 18 years old and sold him this plan, and he bought in. He's just going along with it because he doesn't care. So it's irrelevant. The AD coming here is completely irrelevant. LeBron has a history of pushing his young guys on the organizations that he played with, his company Clutch Sports represents.
At this upcoming summer, assuming they lose Russell Westbrook, which they're going to, and somebody is going to take that money to play with LeBron. So eventually that is going to happen. Someone's going to want to play with him.
Yeah, it's going to be another Mozgov, another Luol Deng situation. That's the type of player that's going to come here. It ain't going to be someone like and I'm not looking, Adam, at the free agents coming up. It's not going to be someone like a Ja Morant. Okay, Ja Morant ain't coming to L.A. to play with LeBron at the end of LeBron's goodbye tour. It's not going to be someone like that. It's not going to be a KD or whoever, a big-time player. They're not going to come play with LeBron. It's going to be some schmuck who is just good enough, and Pelinka is just dumb enough to give him all the money like he did for Mozgov and Deng.
In his defense, though, I think if that happened, Ryan and probably me would believe that Anthony Davis being there is as large a part of why they would go there as just if it was LeBron independently. I don't know.
Yeah, but is it disrespect?
I don't think people are going to come play with AD. He's had a great stretch the last 10, 15 games, but he hasn't proven anything outside the bubble. He hasn't proven a thing.
Is it disrespect, though? Like, if that is your perspective as a player, so-and-so is aging, therefore they're not going to be as good enough to be able to lead us to a championship. That's not disrespect. That's just recognizing, hey, man, this guy's not what he was 7 years ago.
Apparently these guys have never met a professional athlete in the world in their entire lives. Because the one thing you don't say to a world-class athlete is you're not good enough. Because that is the most ultimate sign of disrespect. To tell them they are not good enough. They are the ones who made it to the top of the top of the top. They have the largest egos in the world because they deserve to have it, because they are the true 0.0001% of athletes in the world. They are true alphas and have been at every step of in their lives. So yeah, telling this guy as he's aging, you're not good enough, they're going to take that as disrespect.
I have a better chance of winning elsewhere. I don't understand how that's disrespectful to a veteran.
Then you've literally never met an athlete in your life. Even not even a pro athlete, even someone who played in college. You've never met a college athlete if you think that that's not disrespectful.
I agree with your comment there. I also think that, I mean, there's probably even cases where people still think a guy's an incredible player, but things like, well, how big is the window come into consideration? Mm-hmm. Whereas you might not think that LeBron James has had a significant, severe drop-off, but if you could look at a guy like Tatum, who you know has another decade ahead of him, then all things being equal, why wouldn't you choose the younger guy?
And that's the point. They're pushing the old guy out of the pack.
Perhaps Ryan has an agenda against the modern NBA, which he certainly does. If you follow him on Twitter, he hates it. Maybe that's where this is all coming from. I don't know. Just a guess. All right, more for
an almost true statement by Adam. I don't hate the modern NBA. I just have an issue with, guys like Kawhi who don't play. I have an issue with the flopping. I have an issue with AD wanting to be some below average 15 to 25 foot shooter and not play in the paint, constantly being injured. That's my issue with the NBA and the replay. But
no one wants to play with LeBron because they know they're not going to get any credit for anything they do because all the credit's going to go to LeBron. No young stars want to come to the Lakers. Similar.
And this is exactly the point, okay? Bob and Adam, these two NBA stat nerds, tried to turn it into, let's look at the stats and see why these players should want to play with LeBron, because his stats are still remarkably incredible, because he's truly one of a kind on all kinds of PEDs, able to sustain his athleticism. He hasn't sustained a major injury like Kobe. But they're showing it in a different way, because everyone knows that for LeBron's entire career, he gets the credit when he wins and you take the blame when he loses. It's proven. And no young star who's got 10 years ahead of him, 15 years ahead of him, is going to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to LeBron, play on his team, extend his career, maybe get him another title to get higher up in the championship conversation in comparison with guys like Mike and Magic and Larry and Kobe and Kareem. And he's going to get all the credit. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. Yeah, and what was the response when Kyrie did that for LeBron? It was Kyrie got the heck out of town.
To how no young stars wanted to go to the Lakers at the end of Kobe's career for different reasons, because Kobe was a gunner and had made it clear that he was going to gun and he was going to talk shit to whoever and make sure that they were on his level and it was his team. But it's the same result.
It may be the same result, but one reason is justified.
Correct.
The other...
How is not getting any credit unjustified?
Wouldn't be if young guys don't, in fact, want to come play with LeBron, which I'd say is still kind of yet to be proven.
Yeah, like how do you prove that? Who had the Lakers have pursued that they couldn't get?
How is it unjustified? It's two different things. I just said players not wanting to come play with Kobe was justified. He was stubborn. He didn't want to change his game at the end, and that was fine. He got what he wanted. He got to be the star. He got a ton of money on the way out. But it's the same result. They don't want to come with LeBron because they know they're not going to credit. That's a justifiable reason, especially with athletes who want the credit for how good they are, especially with NBA stars. They want the credit.
Who could they have afforded this past offseason?
Now they're going to get into capology crap that is not part of the argument.
Well, he didn't want to come there. He was just traded to play with LeBron James. I mean, what's it going to be?
And I think also, like, one of the things that always jumps out to me when we have these discussions is I think people key on stuff like when Kevin Durant was saying how, he doesn't want to go play with LeBron, or like,
this is actually a reasonable point here by Bob, but I think he's going to get it twisted.
Why would you want to go play with LeBron because of that? And the difference in my perception anyway, and maybe I just have rabbit ears because, I'm such a LeBron supporter, is that LeBron takes plenty of verbal bullets from other stars or mainly media people, talking heads, Skip Baylesses and that type, that, yeah, it's apparent that he's criticized at a level that a guy like Michael Jordan never was. But I also think the whole same holds true with Kobe. Like, I don't think Kobe, he took little to no bullets.
This is absolute insanity.
The media, with the fans, with the general loud vocal part of and there are the diehard fans, the people who are.
Apparently, Bob just never watched ESPN or any of the morning talking head shows during the last, from 2012 or 2012 to the end of Kobe's career. Apparently not, because he's magically rewriting history. Like, not every single NBA discussion about Kobe on TV and on Twitter was about how the game had passed him by. No one wants to play with him. He's old. He's aging. The injury did too much to him. His style of play doesn't fit the modern game. All this, like, Kobe was getting crucified by every NBA media personality, Twitter fan that wasn't a Kobe guy. Outside of Los Angeles, outside of the true Kobe fans in Los Angeles, Kobe was a black sheep that they wanted nothing to do with. And they took every opportunity to disrespectfully shoot him down and tell him why he wasn't good enough anymore and how he deserved what's coming to him and he wanted to get paid and all of this stuff. It was a bloodbath for Kobe. It was a bloodbath for Kobe during the final years of his career until he got his PR tour in the last year.
Push back against this narrative that he was better than he actually was, both historically and from an overall standpoint. But they're shouted down by the massive contingent of Lakers fans and people who amplify Kobe's legacy to a point where I think the man gets too much respect, honestly.
I agree he gets too much respect, but that started happening the day Kobe died. Up until then, it was not that. So Bob is so incensed by the fact that what has happened to Kobe post his traumatic death is what happens to people like Michael Jackson when he died, or any legend of some arena when they die, is we turn them into a god in the media and in society, and we forget all of their faults. Michael Jackson's a great example of this. And we only focus on how truly legendary they were, and we turn them into gods, which they don't deserve, but it happens to all of them. And it becomes an irrational fandom. And it's completely happened with Kobe, who I love, who was my favorite NBA player from the moment Jordan retired till the day that Kobe retired. It's completely gone off the rails with where we're ranking Kobe now. But Bob is apparently really, really unable to understand this context.
I would say, and I said this for a long time, but Kobe's greatest attribute and his biggest mark on the game is his scoring. And sometimes it got in the way of winning. Like, especially
Sure, analyze his game. Who cares?
And
that's not
you
new.
would see less is more with him. And getting guys involved.
This is not part of the
winning.
discussion.
More so than just him putting up and chucking and being a gunner, putting up shots.
This is Adam continuing his anti-Kobe narrative by dissecting the man's game. Thank you, Adam.
I mean, I agree with that. I see that.
And even just independent of Kobe, LeBron, just to put a sweeping statement that young guys don't want to play with aging veterans, I just think is inaccurate. If you can find me a tangible example of this, Ryan, where
what example, Kevin, do you have of young guys wanting to play with aging vets, of aging stars? You're asking me to find the example that they don't. You find the example that they do. You can't produce one.
a young free agent player said, I don't want to play with someone, or there's reports about them not wanting to play with someone because they're too old and they can't win, please find that for me.
Why is there going to be, number one, a player's never going to say that publicly because that would cause a media firestorm that they do not want to deal with. Number two, you're asking for reports of that. Well, why does there need to be a report of it? If they're simply not going to sign with that player's team on the way out, if that's a trend that is tried and true, that, these young players don't go to teams with aging superstars, don't ask me to produce the example where they don't. You produce the example where they do, because I can't recall any.
I haven't seen that.
And if it is because they're too old and can't win,
that makes a good reason to me. It makes sense to me. Why would you go there? Doesn't make any sense.
Players should honor NBA legends by playing with broken down former stars.
No one's ever said that.
They should attach
There goes Adam twisting words. Evil Adam.
their own legacies and careers to them doing that. What? That doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know. Okay. I mean, I'm all for slandering Ryan here to defend my own name, but I don't know that he's going that far. I think he's just
NBA players
I disagree with his
older
assessment,
legends.
but I don't think he ever made the statement that people should go play with those people.
This is why I started off saying that Bob is a reasonable guy. Bob and Kevin, reasonable. The real enemy here is Adam. Adam is looking to twist things up for his own enjoyment, to create chaos in his simple Jack mentality, because he needs to be entertained. Because he thinks now, because he's a Clippers pre-half and post guy, that he's suddenly become some basketball savant who sees things that no one else sees.
Okay,
I think he's just taking it more personal that people didn't with Kobe, perhaps in a way where he interpreted some of that as disrespect. Where I think all of us are on the same page that was just sort of an intelligent decision by players who were considering, do I want to hitch my wagon to a guy whose production has fallen off an absolute cliff, but is still being paid like a top 5 player in the NBA.
And then the idea that LeBron is like stealing, the spotlight from these players. Look at the Lakers right now as a perfect example. How many Laker fans, damn, we really could use KCP or Kyle Kuzma or Caruso was really big in the bubble. Like, people who actually follow the NBA and know it closely, not the people on the periphery who just know the star players, know how important the role players are and the role that they fit. So the idea that LeBron James is going to take all the credit, that I don't really think that holds up either.
In what world are role players getting credit for LeBron's titles and successes? They're getting all of the blame. Kevin apparently forgot about I believe the last finals run for LeBron with the Cavs, where he dragged that horrid team to the finals through the horrid Eastern Conference. And the prevailing narrative was, this is incredible. LeBron's out there with 4 fat guys from a Cleveland high school Division 6 team, and he dragged them to the finals. And we should give him the NBA Finals MVP, even though he lost with those crappy players who don't even belong in the NBA. That was the narrative when LeBron did that. So there's no world in which role players, not even star number 2 like Kyrie, who got very little credit for getting LeBron that title over the Warriors, Kyrie, who hit the game-winning shot, and it will be referenced later in the podcast, also had 2 40-point games. Kyrie did not get the credit for that. LeBron did. So in what world is KCP now going to start getting credit? None.
And I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. I'm just reading what Ryan said. He compared it to a pack of animals treating its aging alpha and how they collectively decide to shove them out disrespectfully.
People are not wanting to play with LeBron James because they're going to lose credit. That's not that. I think that argument's ridiculous.
How? The entire career, LeBron has gotten all the credit when they succeed, and he gets none of the blame when they lose. It's a fact.
I think, look, Kevin Durant came out and said it's a toxic environment, and he alluded to this stuff if you're playing with LeBron James. So I think there's something to it. But
you'll get scapegoated, I think, if they lose, and maybe it's a lose-lose situation if you want to look at it that way. If in some people's eyes, if you win with LeBron James, LeBron was so great, he should win anyway. If you lose, wow, the role players are terrible, the team sucks, all that. So I guess it's a lose-lose situation if you want to look at it that way. But for when LeBron has won, and like again, anybody that's followed the sport knows the role players and the important roles that they play in those championship teams.
Well, how
they're not
would
getting credit.
I guess, characterize the level of support that Kyrie Irving got, Bob? Kyrie Irving, did he get enough love and support for the shot that he hit? LeBron had the block. He had to hit the free throw late and was about to yam it on Draymond Green, which would have been the ultimate highlight to cap off that Game 7 victory against the Golden State Warriors. But does Kyrie Irving fall into this category of not being appreciated enough, and that's where guys are coming from?
I don't think on the shot he does, but I do think people sometimes lose sight of the fact that, I mean, he had 2 40-point games there. Like, for the overall series, I would say sometimes that gets buried, but that's because, again, LeBron led the team in every statistic. But that's not to say that Kyrie wasn't huge, though.
Kyrie does not. They say, oh, yeah, Kyrie hit the game-winning shot, and then it's LeBron. LeBron carried them. Kyrie was apparently so thrilled being LeBron's number 2 that what did he do? He said, yeah, I need to be traded, and I want to go to Boston. He wanted out from a championship team. He wanted out. It's the perfect example for the LeBron takes all the credit narrative. He was like, yeah, this blows. Like, I'm this young star. I got game. I hit the game-winning shot, and I'm getting none of the credit. And that's why he left. And maybe he didn't say that publicly, but you can read between the lines. He left. He left a championship team. That never happens.
But if Kyrie has a case for being disrespected about anything, I think sometimes because LeBron James was one of the first people, I know Giannis has done it, but to lead the team in points and rebounds and assists and blocks and steals over the course of that series, that it diminishes to some degree that Kyrie Irving, dropped double 40-point games during the course of that series and was just an absolute monster. I don't know, maybe not by the talking head shows, but look at guys like J.R. Smith, got his biggest contract after that happened. Tristan Thompson got his biggest contract in his NBA.
And see, this is where Bob can't help himself being a LeBron stan. He goes off on a tangent about how LeBron got guys paid. One of the true great credits to LeBron's career is he got guys way overpaid. Not relevant to the argument. Not relevant to the argument because a young NBA star, a young NBA superstar on the level of a Ja Morant or someone else, a Tatum, they're already going to get paid. LeBron got role players overpaid, which is a great mark and a great credit to his career that he deserves all the praise in the world for. It's an irrelevant point to the discussion, which is talking about NBA stars who are already going to be paid. The pay level for them is set. They are going to get the max. They are going to get paid. LeBron will have zero effect on that.
And Bob got all butthurt because he's a LeBron stan and some Cavaliers dork for whatever reason. I don't know why. That's what I was saying.
I still don't know why. He never explained why.
LeBron's, nerd stat bukkake that you guys all get hard over to Kobe's end of career where he was just gunning it and hurt and old. I was saying they get pushed out. No one wants to play with them. No one wants to come to the Lakers and play with LeBron.
You can't sit with us.
They're done with him controlling the narrative and all the stuff he does. That's why. Next time, ask.
I think the issue a lot of times with LeBron teams specifically, and also to some degree to that Kobe team after he signed that huge extension, is that those middle-range guys don't want to take a minimum deal to play alongside those people if they know they can go out like a Caruso and get $8-9 million a year, or go somewhere else where if they're going to take a short-term deal, they'll get a chance to have a larger profile. And even look.
And this is like Bob's, again, he's getting sidetracked here talking about role players when we were not talking about that. We're talking about young stars coming to the Lakers. But also, again, untrue. Like, there's a long history of high-level veteran role players who, across all sports, not just basketball, but across all sports, who end up taking vet minimum type deals to go play on a championship squad. It's like the most common thing. So-and-so went and took the veterans minimum so he could go chase that ring with whichever team they think is going to go win the title. So it's completely, it's both irrelevant to the conversation and it's incorrect. If an aging role player vet, in his 30s or whatever, sees that and he doesn't have a ring, he sees he has an opportunity to go join a squad and get a ring, they generally take it. They generally take it. Not every single one, but a lot of them do. And there's a proven history of that.
But there's a lot of those guys with the Lakers who, unfortunately, because of how prolific the top end of the roster are, just find themselves not wanting to go there initially or leaving because they can get more money from the free market from teams which have less talent and more money to spend.
Or teams that have a shot of winning the title, which the Lakers do not.
Say-
Sounds like smart business
I
to
don't
me.
take that. I don't take that as disrespect. I take that as everybody has a finite. Most of these guys are not going to play 20 years at a high level.
It is absolutely mind-boggling to me that this LeBron stan Bob doesn't think that LeBron would take it as a sign of disrespect that no one wants to come play with him anymore. No one wants to sit at his lunch table. That guy's got to be livid about it.
The NBA, they know they got one, maybe two big contracts in the cycle of their careers, and they're going to pursue the best opportunity for that. And unfortunately, a team that has three, superstar players, or at least three guys who at one point were superstars, it's going to be harder to come by that kind of notoriety, usage, and just production.
Seems like it's slightly more complicated than just young guys.
But I
wanting
do
to
like
push the old heads
Nerdstat
out.
Bukkake. I am a fan of
That's a
Nerdstat
first.
Bukkake. Yes.
Well, I mean, we got a lot out of that voicemail, so I guess we got to thank Ryan to some
Yeah,
degree.
we did.
You're welcome.
It's carrying the
I'm
show
all for
today.
the debate. I'm all for the. You're wrong, but I'm all for
Next
the debate.
time,
man.
call me and ask.
Bob,
I think in the end, if we can just all agree that Kobe Bryant should not be compared to LeBron in any facet of the game aside from championships.
I mean, I don't know how
Yeah, because
any-
LeBron can't stack
So
up.
anyone that's watched the NBA over the course of the last 20 years could deny that. But of course, to
that's-
your point, Bob, we're the ones who are in the far reaches in the corner, the indie people. Everybody else says that Kobe Bryant's the next thing next to Michael Jordan. So
They say he's the closest thing to Michael Jordan we'll ever see because it's true from a skill and a hard work standpoint. But I've already covered it. The rational conversation pre-Kobe death was that he's top 10, maybe. A lot of people had him outside the top 10 or at the top 10 or 6, 7, 8, 9. But that's changed because of what happened to Kobe. But that'll settle down and it'll become rational again.
I was just gonna say it is wild how legacy can change just based on misfortune, basically. So I'm saying, it's
true.
It's amazing how distant in the past some of the negatives of Kobe Bryant have become due to all the stuff that's.
But they were there. At least we can acknowledge finally, these three dorks can finally acknowledge that, yes, the prevailing narrative prior to death, prior to the last game when he retired, prior to his victory tour in his last season was, man, this Kobe guy's got to go. He's done.
all right, fair and balanced.
No.
I like to think so.
But I would also not be disappointed if Ryan fired off another angrier voicemail.
Oh, it's happening.
It's more than a voicemail,
So,
Bob.
That's
maybe
a
I
lot.
should slander him on the way out.
All right. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I appreciate it if you watched all of this. And to F&A is completely off base and unfair and balanced as you were. Love you guys. Bob, you're the best. Still don't understand this insane Cavs fandom, but wishing you all the best with Fear the Fro podcast and the F&A podcast. You can find them both in podcasts. I don't have a podcast. This is the only spot. You can find me on Twitter. I have several accounts. My own name, Ryan Van Tuyl, Vantuyl. PMS Union, which is the account I run that mostly relates to the Petros and Money Show on AM 570, and the LA Sports Union, which is if I ever feel like saying something about sports in LA, it usually goes there.
Thank you.